Vesak day. So this is a very a short notice, and yet you all come. So glad to see you all. And as we know that Scotland is not a Buddhist country, so we don't have a holiday on a special day like this here in Scotland. Initially I was planning to have it in a barn so that you can see some lanterns that you made, but worried that may be a little cold, so that's why we moved in here, so you can't see the lanterns. Okay? However, you will see it on a Saturday. Saturday I think we will move there. Yeah? So lanterns, you can see that. So in Scotland we don't have that holiday, so it's not easy to celebrate the Vesak day. And a good thing is that we don't have to be strict with any days in a Buddhism. If you are following other religion, then they will be very strict. Yeah? So then you have to either take a holiday or spend time as much as possible to celebrate that special day. In Buddhism it is very flexible, and this flexibility sometimes becomes too much, so we forget. We just say, okay, let go. And that can happen very easily. So that's why I have been always thinking of doing this on an exact day, as many as possible. So that's today would be the first day that we are doing it properly to offer and to celebrate and honor the Buddha. Now, Vesak day, as we know, that is the day Buddha was born. Interesting thing, Buddha was born in a royal family, but he didn't born in the palace. So he was born in the forest. In the forest. So that's why the Buddha, in a way, very common to everybody. It's not belongs to just a royal family or just for any particular group of the people. So it's to all, every being. The day when he was born, the story says that he was in the heavens. His last birth as a human was the Vesantara, and during his life as the Vesantara, he gave everything away, even wife and children, and not only the material things. That was his last birth as a human. And then after that, it is said that he was reborn in the heavens, Tushita heaven. While he was in the Tushita heaven, after he spent his time, and then he was invited to descend as a human being. So that would be the last birth. So he descends. Before he descends, he checks that where should I go and get reborn. So he checked around, and then, according to the tradition, says that the place where people have only 100 years to live. The lifespan is 100 years. And then a person who is always living in the moral, ethical values. So after he checked then he decided to descend in this royal family. His mother was Maya, and then later on he is known as the Siri Mahamaya. So that's Siri Mahamaya. And his father was King Suddhodana. So then, on the day when he was born, it is said that straight away he walked 7 steps. Sometimes I used to question myself whether is it possible. Is it possible that after you're born, you can walk 7 steps straight away? And not only going for 7 steps, he raised his hand and said these words, that I am the eldest, I am the greatest, and this is my last birth. When we reflect to ourselves, it takes a couple of years to stand up as a human. Not like animals. Animals, after they got birth, straight away in a few seconds or a minute, they will stand up and start walking. They will stand up and start walking. But for the humans, it is not the case. So I had that question for a long time. And then eventually I come to conclusion, including it says in the scripture as well, that he was taken by some deities, and then he walked for 7 steps and spoke that words, right? But my conclusion that because he had been perfecting his parameters for such a long time, such a long time, it is possible because he was someone very special. So it is possible that he could walk and then he could speak. Right? So then, for us as well, there are some children, they can speak within a few months' time, and some children have to wait for many years to come, and only then they can speak. So, but for the Buddha, because he had perfected his perfection for such a long time, and then having understood that this is going to be his last birth, so I come to conclusion that it is possible if we pursue our perfections and we perfect it, and eventually we will be able to do that too. But anyway, for this, Prince Siddhartha, so he managed to do that, and he spoke that as his last birth. And he, after that, he was looked after in his palace. The simple reason is that he was predicted that if he sees the signs, or if he knows those 4 signs, then he will be living a royal family and then become an ascetic and become the Buddha. And as being a king, he obviously wants his son to be the king as him. Like we have examples, somebody who is a doctor, they always want their children to be doctors or engineers in the high posts. They will not think that their children will be in a lower or doing something different like that. So the king, the Suddhodana, had that thought. So that's why he kept Prince Siddhartha in the palace for the teachings. And then after that, despite of those strict teachings, eventually he was questioning himself, and then according to the later writings, says that he saw 4 signs. The 4 signs: old age, sickness, remember? Huh? Old age, sickness. What else? Dying, and then a monk. Yes. So tradition, the later writings says that he saw that in a scripture. It is not recorded like that, but in Arya Pariyeshana Sutta says that he contemplated on these three things, that why do we have to get old, why do we have to get sick, and why do we have to die. Having contemplated on that, then he decided to become a monk, so he left the palace. And here, my understanding that it could be he left without telling his mother. It could be that he left the palace and became a monk without telling the parents. But when later on, when he was asked about his renunciation, at that time he simply said that, oh, I gave up palace life despite my parents had something else, other things, and then they were not happy with my decision, like that. So it's like when somebody asked me, you were born in a Hindu family, then what my father or parents' reaction? I normally say, oh, they didn't like me to be a monk. They didn't want me to give up a monk life, but yet I gave up and I became a monk, like that. But in between there are other things. So same with the Buddha. When he left the palace, although this Arya Pariyeshana Sutta doesn't say that he saw these four signs and he gave up the palace, but simply say that after reflected on old age, sickness and death, he decided to give up the palace, and he gave up. And he spent 6 years studying. After studying for 6 years, then he got enlightened, right? Got enlightened under the Bodhi tree. So under the Bodhi tree, before he got this enlightenment, we have to remember that his determination was so firm that I have to be enlightened in this life. So when he was practicing for 6 years in different institutes, even in jungles, and there were 5 friends, Panchavakya, Baddhavakiyas, were helping. And after knowing that the Buddha changed his mind and ate some food, all these 5 ascetics thought that, oh, now he's not going to be the Buddha. Now he's going back to his palace and then becoming a prince or a king later on. So all the 5 ascetics or friends left him. And yet his determination, the Buddha's determination to be enlightened never faded away. He continued, despite his friends left him. So we have to think as well in our life. Sometimes your friends will leave you for your great decisions that you make, thinking that, oh, you will not be success now, because you have changed your mind. And in those cases, you have to remember your dedication and determination to complete that. Right? So the Buddha, he did that. Right? And despite of 5 ascetics left, he continued his journey to find out, and eventually he attained the enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Bodhi. You did it?
Yes, it's almost bedtime.
Oh, okay. So he... Bye-bye. So he enlightened. And now here again, in the enlightenment, we say that the Buddha attained enlightenment, and that enlightenment is the Four Noble Truths. Right? But when we look at it carefully, we see that the first knowledge that he acquired was, who remember? First knowledge that the Buddha acquired on the night of the Vesak day before his enlightenment. The first knowledge was Puppe Nivasanusatiyana. Yeah? So that means Puppe Nivasanusatiyana, basically he was reflecting his past lives. Yeah? He was reflecting his past lives and went into such a long time of his past. That doesn't mean he traveled back to the past. Okay? He remembered it, doesn't mean he went back. So all the information was simply there. It's like saved in our hard disks, in our subconsciousness. It's saved. So he simply checked it one after another, all the files, all the previous files from the beginning of, may not be the beginning, but as many as possible he went back. There is no records of saying that he went back to the beginning of that beginning, but there is simply saying went back that many eons of a life, very uncountable. Very uncountable. So probably in the history he would be the first person to go back that many lifetimes of his own life. So that's why it is a science. Buddhism is like a science that is basically working on ignorance that we do not know and find out the truth about it. Same with the Buddha. He went back to find out entire what's happened, the ignorance, the not knowing, and that's the cause of coming back and going again and again in the samsara. So he went back and then he checked each and individual lives, that what happened this life, and because of this life that I have done this, the result of these actions actually making me to reborn in this life like this. Checking of that. And then he went on from this life and he checked it again. Oh, I had done this, so I am having this. And in this life again I am doing this, and as a result of that, next life I am having this. So he was able to connect and reconnect and join all these dots from his previous lives, and then why he was so handsome sometimes, why he was so ugly sometimes, and then why he was so tall sometimes, why he was so short. He went through all his lives, not only human lives, right? Not only human lives. He went through all his life, even animals, even going into the hells, right? Deep down hell. Not only in the four Suddhavasas, Brahma Lokas, right? But rest of other places he went. He remembered all his previous lives. And that's how he remembered. That I did this wrong, and as a result I was reborn as the animal like this. And after being in the animal life like this, because of my previous good actions that I had done, that enforced me to become a human again. And when I was a human, I did this is good things. I continued hundreds of many thousands of lives as a human. But somehow again, because of something that I have done wrong, I was again reborn as a deer, as a dog, as a cat, right? Like that. So he was able to connect each dots and understood that, oh, each life that I had is simply because all the action that I have done was the cause. And these intentionally done actions making me to be reborn in these new rebirths. Right? Then what happened? He understood that if I take this action away, I will not be reborn in this way like that. So he simply take away the intentionally doing things away. So that's how he understood, and that's how he stopped new lives. When he stopped his desire or intentionally doing things, he stopped there like that. At that time again, what happened, that he wanted to investigate the other animals, how other animals will, or how other beings will reborn and get rebirth. No? That's it. That is the second knowledge. What is that called, second knowledge? So, Chuttupadayana. Chuttu upada. So, dying and getting rebirth of all the sentient beings. So he first investigated his life, and now he is connecting with other beings' life. And also he realized, the Buddha realized that all beings are also doing same thing, similar way, like I had done. And as a result of that, they are also reborning again and again and again because of the action they have done, intentionally done action. And with that, the Buddha was able to contemplate on every being's getting rebirth in a new place. Right? And after he investigated both himself and then all other beings, he come to the conclusion that actually the main root cause that causing us to be reborn again and again is the action that's done intentionally. Intentionally doing something that actually causing. And that intentionally doing, driven by our desire. Wanting to be, wanting to have. Yeah? Whenever you have this wanting to have, wanting to be, then you react to that, and then actually that is making a new sankharas, new birth. Doesn't matter how big that would be. So he understood that this cause needs to take it away. Now he simply takes that cause, and that is known as the asavas, right? Kilesas, greediness, hatred. So this greediness and hatred, the greed comes because of not knowing that after have this greed, we do things can be nasty, can cause a lot of other trouble. Right? And having understood that, he managed to stop this greed, hatred and delusion. The moment he understood that, and that is the third understanding, third knowledge. Do you know what is it called? So that's called asavakaya yana. That means asava, and then akaya, destroying, kaya, right? Kaya means destroying. So he destroyed all the asavas. The asavas basically is greed, hatred and delusion. And that knowledge he received. And that after he got this knowledge, then he concluded into the formula, then into the Four Noble Truth. So that's the conclusion of his finding. It's like EM square. EM square. Whose theory is this? Good. So like that. So the Four Noble Truth is the summary of his finding. Right? And this summary he didn't just found on that night. We have to think of this eons of times of accumulation of his knowledge and perfections. And then eventually he was able to reconnect all these and recollect all those memories and the knowledge, and eventually he come to this conclusion. And within that conclusion, again, we have to remember that he was able to comprehend that each life that he was reborn, he was experiencing different sufferings. Right? So these sufferings has this cause. So that's why in the Four Noble Truth, the summary is that we all have a suffering, and this suffering can be ended. So that's why the entire Buddha's teachings is basically to understand that we suffer, and this suffering can be ended. That's all. So suffering is there, the suffering can be ended. So the entire Buddha's teachings is basically this, the fourth one, the path, the teachings. Because these three things, it's always there, whether Buddha is there or not. The suffering is there. The cause of the suffering is there. And this suffering can be ended. It's there all the time, whether Buddha is there or not. That's why in one of the discourses, the Buddha said that Upadava tathagata nang titawasa thatu dhammatitata dhammaniyamata, right? Whether the Buddha will arise or not, these are always there. The Buddha arose simply to show this path. So that's the entire Buddha's teachings, although we summarize it into the Four Noble Truths, but basically the teachings of the Buddha is the Eightfold Noble Path. Right? And whenever we walk on this path, the Eightfold Noble Path, then we are closer to this ending the suffering. Right? Closer to the ending of the suffering. And this ending of the suffering begins from understanding ourselves, who we really are. It's not easy. It's not easy. Like this afternoon, I went to visit the one school in Midlaw, and then I met with this gentleman whom I have known for 10 years, and now he has got a son, and he said that I can give up jobs, I can give up my money, I can give up things, no problem. But I have this big attachment to this my son. How can I give up? How can I be detached with it? So we all have this attachment to something, but that something, if that is related to the children, it becomes more stronger than anything else. Anything else. That's why there is a saying that parents or father and a mother, they can die for their children. They can die for the children. That's why whenever children die first, father and mother always think, why them? Why not me? Right? I supposed to be buried or cremated by my children. Why I have to cremate them? So that's because of the bond, the creation of this relationship, emotionally created this bond of attachment. Yeah? So it's not easy to get rid of that. And do you know why that is? You can give up your life, but not your child. And you can give up for that your child. Do you know why? It's simpler because you have created this concept that this is my mini-me. I have created, right? This belongs to me. Does it look like familiar? I have created this mini-me. I am this. So I need to give everything possible better than myself. Right? So we create that bond. And with that bond, we become so attached to it, and then it becomes so difficult to let go. And that attachment, when something happens, causes a lot of trouble. Right? A lot of trouble. That's why whenever it comes to the questioning of Buddha's life, Buddha was, he left the palace the moment when he got this boy, right? The Varapunya. Normally people ask, he's a heartless man to give up his own child at such an early age, like that. Now when we look at the other side, Buddha himself said, if I stayed, I will develop this bond, this attachment even more and greater, so that I will not have chance to pursue my attainment of this enlightenment. So that's why he left before building this attachment. Right? And in a conventional way, if we look at it, in order to achieve something, we always have to go away from the home. Otherwise, you cannot achieve as you wish. It takes like that. But ultimately, the Dhammas, from the Dhammic way, for Buddha himself, he explained later on, saying that if he stayed with his Rahula, then gradually he would develop this attachment and not able to get rid of. That's why we have plenty of examples. I will come to the temple when my children goes to university. And then after they go to the university and think, oh, I will wait until they finish the university. Right? And then what happens after that? Oh, they're getting job and they're getting married, and I will go when my grandchildren got bigger. By the time, what happens? When all the grandchildren grown up, what happened?
You can walk.
So it will be difficult that time to come to the temple. So this attachment develops one after another, one after another. But if we go and clearly looking at it, eventually we will be able to understand that one way or another, actually they are living us. When they grow up, they go to the university. At that time, doesn't matter how hard you want them to be with you, they will go away. Right? They will go away. And then, later on, when they get married, what happens? Doesn't matter how hard you want them to be with you, they will go away with their own partners and husband and wife. That's why we have a lot of troubles at that time too. Mother or father can't get on with their partners and then causes a lot of trouble. They're fighting. They can't live in the same house. Like that. So that's the one other way. And then eventually again, which is very strong and hard to comprehend, that the moment when they die, right? So one way or another, we or him or her have to die. We cannot die together at the same time. So that way also we separate. We become separated. So if we can contemplate in that way, and then what happens that we are simply fulfilling our duties. Right? We are living with the Dhamma, that we are fulfilling our duties as a parents and as a children. And eventually we are living, because we are living with the Dhamma, what happens that when the separation comes, we are not suffered as we normally have. Right? And that's called the Dhamma Have Rakkati Dhammachari. A person who is practicing the Dhamma, Dhamma will protect you. Dhamma will protect you. So that's why the Buddha's teaching is basically the understanding of our own self through this lens called the Four Noble Truths. But when we look at, analyze the Four Noble Truths, then we realize that every action that we do, actually that has an effect to continuation of our new lives, and then that continuation of a new life, how it will be, how we are living our lives in this or following lives. So that's why the entire Buddha's teachings becomes so relevant to all of us, that if we truly practice the Dhamma, then we basically step by step going towards this freedom that eventually we will be able to attain. And that freedom is basically being freed from all types of attachment, not just the material forms, not just the relationships, but also within ourselves as well. So the moment when we fully able to understand our own self, then we don't have this attachment of our own self. That's called the living. We become true Buddhists. That is leading towards the freedom. So, on this reflection, on the day of this Vesak day, we are here to celebrate the Buddha's birth, his enlightenment, and his passing away, which again, after his enlightenment, he spent 45 years teaching. 45 years teaching this simple formula, right, for noble truth. And this teaching lasts until now, so which is 2,567 years after he passed away. Probably this is one of the longest, widest, and opened belief or a tradition that we have in the world, which introduced with a simple concept of bringing happiness. There is no war, there is no conflict in terms of spreading these teachings, even during the time of the Buddha or after the Buddha has passed away. There is no so-called holy wars in the spreading the Buddha's teachings. So, recent days I have been reading this history of the world religion again after 20 years. So 20 years ago I studied all these 12, 13 religions for 4 years, their origins and their teachings, and I never paid much attention to those religious backgrounds at that time. At that time my intention was to get a good mark. And then once the exam done, got the mark, finished. All the books, thrown away. Never visited that. And then now recently somehow I went back and reading those histories of different world religions, and I felt that somehow I feel very sorry for all the religions and how this originated, because it has a full of pain and suffering and conflict, fighting and envy and all sort of things, you just name it. And that's all worldly things that's happening for the survival in this life, and also for the existential crisis. So individual existence, for the individual's existence. So that's why it talks about the rights, and then personal the ethnic existence, and so on. But for Buddhism, not the case. Right? It simply talks about giving up whatever these are searching and causing a trouble. And I found that when I was reflecting, my heart was kind of become so close to Buddhism more than before. More than before. And then I found that Buddha's teachings is so pure and so direct to the cause of the sufferings and how to get rid of that suffering. And that probably the reason why Buddhists were killed, expelled, destroyed, but never retaliated, never went back for a wars. But simply, it's okay, probably that was my karma, move on, right? And that's how all the Buddhist communities, that's how Buddhists are so kind and compassionate, helpful, and always take easy onto the things. So when I was reflecting that's why I feel so connected, and so I don't know how to say. When I think of that, my heart is simply like becomes so close to the Buddha. And then nowadays, when I pay respect to the Buddha, it's like my heart is like I'm offering this heart to him. Although we know that the Buddha is not there anymore, but this image of this Buddha is there, and then I feel like I am offering myself to Buddha. And how grateful, because I wasn't born Buddhist, right? Not like you all, majority. I wasn't a born Buddha, but after I studied and practiced, and I felt like, I am so lucky. I am so lucky that I have got this opportunity to study and practice. And with that, even now, recent reading, that even made me more closer to the Buddha. And so when I pay respect, I feel like I offer this to him, and that's how we are supposed to be celebrating the Buddha's this Vesak day. And also, as the Buddha also said, that offering material things is not the greatest in offering, but the Dhammano Dhamma Patipatti, right? Practicing the Dhamma is the greatest offering to the Buddha. So that's why I encourage you all to continue practicing the Dhamma, and with that may you all attain the Supreme Nibbana as well. So today also we are all gathering here with this. May you all have great blessings from the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, and all the merits that we have accumulated brings you good health and a happy life and successful in your life, and also that leads to the ending of entire suffering. So may you all well and happy. Now let's dedicate the merits they have put. Okay, I will just do it myself. Okay, I will do it in both chanting in both like this, Pali and just Pali would be enough, right? Yeah. Okay. Andhamayang Udesanaditana Gatayo Panamasehiyan Imina Punya Kamena Upachaya Kunutara Acariyo Pakara Chamata Pita Chayataka Suriyo Chandi Maracha Gunavanta Narapicha Brahma Maraja Inda Cha Lokapala Cha Devata Yamomita Manusa Cha Majata Virika Picha Sape Sata Sukhi Hontu Punyani Pakatani Me Sukhan Chati Vidantentu Kipampa Vetabo Matang Imina Punya Kamena Himina Hudhisena Cha Kipahang Sulapeche Vatandupadhana Chetanang Ye Santani Hinadhamma Yavanipanato Bhavang Na Santu Sapadha Ye Vayata Chato Pave Pave Ujo Cetang Sati Panya Saleko Viryam Hina Marada Bhandanoka Sankaduncha Virye Sumhe Bodhadipa Varo Nato Dhammo Nato Varutamo Nato Pacheka Poto Cha Sankho Nato Taro Bhamang Te Sotamanu Bhavena Maro Kasang Labhantu Ma. Arahang Samba Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. So happy Vesak day to you all. So now refreshment. Yes? Tea, coffee? Anybody has anything to ask? Anyone? Any question?